There comes a moment in life, usually somewhere in our late 50s, 60s, or 70s, where we stop rushing and finally start looking at the world with clearer eyes. Maybe it's because we've raised our families, built our careers, paid off some debts, and survived more storms than we can count. Or maybe it's because we've seen enough cycles, economic, political, social, to know that stability is never promised. Whatever the reason, retirees and near retirees reach a point where they start asking themselves one essential question: how do I protect what I've built? Not just how to grow it, not how to gamble it, but how to defend it. And this question becomes even more important when you look at what's happening to currencies, markets, national debt, and global uncertainty. For so many people, especially those entering retirement, the fear isn't missing out on some big stock market win. The fear is waking up one morning and discovering that the dollar buys less, that the cost of living jumped again, that the nest egg doesn't stretch the way it used to. That's why so many Americans over 55 are looking at hard assets, specifically silver, and asking whether now is the time to act. Because when you strip everything else away, silver has always been something simple, tangible, and real. And the truth is, more people today are asking about something very specific. Should I own at least 1 kilo of silver? Just 1 kilo. Not a truckload. Not a massive vault full. Just enough to create some stability, some reassurance, some real-world anchor when everything else feels shaky. And it's an interesting question because 1 kilo of silver is in reach for many retirees. It's not like trying to buy hundreds of thousands of dollars in assets. It's a realistic amount that's still meaningful. If you hold it in your hand, you feel the weight, the density, the quiet sense of permanence. It's enough to matter, but not enough to overwhelm. And that's why we need to talk, calmly, clearly, and with a level head, about why so many experts believe silver could enter a strong phase going into 2026, and why owning even a single kilo might be more impactful than people realize. Let's start with the basics. Silver has never been just an investment. It's been money for thousands of years, a store of value long before paper currency existed. And unlike digital numbers on a screen, unlike promises or projections, silver is something you can hold, weigh, and verify with your own eyes. Even people who know nothing about markets understand the significance of something real. And in times of economic tension, retirees especially feel the pull toward tangible assets. They've lived through enough downturns to know that the stock market doesn't care about comfort or stability. They've seen retirement accounts drop seemingly overnight. They know how it feels to look at a portfolio and whisper, "I can't afford another crash." So, why silver, and why now? A number of analysts, researchers, and commodities experts have been pointing to a tightening supply situation. Silver is being consumed at levels that are surprising even long-time observers. Solar panels, electric vehicles, advanced electronics, medical applications, and industrial technology all require silver. And not just a small amount. Some of these industries are pushing demand higher than what mining supply is producing each year. Some experts believe that by 2026, these supply pressures could push prices upward. They're not promising it. They're not guaranteeing it. They're simply pointing to charts, production numbers, and global consumption data and saying, this imbalance might matter. But whether or not these predictions come true isn't the real point. The real point is how retirees think about silver. They look at it not as a gamble, but as a form of protection, something that moves differently than the stock market, something that doesn't rely on corporate earnings, something that doesn't evaporate because of political disagreements or central bank decisions. And that's where the idea of owning 1 kilo becomes interesting. For some people, 1 kilo is symbolic, like planting a flag saying, "I will not be caught off guard again." For others, 1 kilo is a first step, a way of easing into the world of precious metals without committing everything at once. And for a small percentage, 1 kilo is simply a part of a much bigger position. But in every case, it represents stability and choice. Now, when people ask how much silver makes sense, I always stay general. Everyone has different comfort levels, different financial responsibilities, different goals for retirement. Some retirees want just enough silver to offset inflation risks. Others want a stronger position because they don't trust the banking system or the dollar's trajectory. Some prefer gold as their foundation and add silver on top for potential growth. Some mix both evenly. There is no one-size-fits-all number. But I can say this: when people in their late 50s or 60s start exploring precious metals, owning somewhere around a kilo of silver often feels like a logical starting point. It's affordable, it's meaningful, and it gives retirees a sense of participation in a market that historically holds up during instability. And if silver does rise, or even if it just holds steady while the dollar weakens, owning a kilo becomes something more than a symbolic gesture. It becomes a cushion, a form of insurance, a piece of a retirement strategy that isn't tied to the whims of Wall Street. Some experts believe that the silver market could experience stronger prices between 2025 and 2026, partly because of supply constraints and partly because of increasing industrial demand. Whether that projection turns into reality, no one knows. But retirees aren't usually focused on predictions. They're focused on protection. They want something real, something with a history of resilience. And that brings us to the emotional core of this topic. Retirement is supposed to be peaceful. It's supposed to be a time when you finally breathe, when you don't feel the knot in your stomach every time the stock market dips, when you don't stay awake at night wondering whether inflation will chip away at your savings. So many retirees today feel the pressure of uncertainty, and they're tired of feeling vulnerable. They want to take back control of their financial future, and silver is one of the tools that can help them feel anchored. And the idea that just 1 kilo could make a real difference carries emotional weight, because it means stability doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can start with something simple. Now, one of the challenges retirees face when thinking about precious metals is figuring out where to buy. They're often unsure which companies are trustworthy, which ones offer legitimate products, which ones specialize in helping retirement-age investors instead of pushing them into high-pressure sales tactics. This is where companies like Augusta Precious Metals enter the conversation. Not as a recommendation, not as financial advice, but as a resource that many retirees find helpful. Augusta Precious Metals has positioned itself as a company focused on clarity, education, and simplicity. They help people understand how gold and silver IRAs work, how physical metals can be purchased, how storage options function, and how retirement investors can avoid common mistakes. Many people like them because they emphasize transparency, because they explain fees clearly, and because they walk retirees through each step instead of bombarding them with confusing jargon. It's not about pushing anyone into buying metals. It's about giving retirees the confidence that they're dealing with a company that understands their concerns and respects their desire for stability. For people who have never bought silver before, having a company that explains each step can make the difference between taking action and staying frozen by uncertainty. A lot of retirees simply want someone who picks up the phone, answers questions without pressure, and gives them information they can use. And that's where Augusta Precious Metals has earned a strong reputation. They provide the kind of patient, educational experience that conservative investors often appreciate. Again, not a personal recommendation, just a statement about what they offer and why many people find them useful. Now, let's look more deeply at the idea of holding 1 kilo. Some people choose 1 kilo as their first step because it creates psychological momentum. Once you physically own silver, once you feel it, once you know it's yours, you begin to understand its role on a deeper level. You stop thinking of it as a theoretical asset, and start thinking of it as part of your foundation. For retirees who spent decades working hard, building wealth, enduring volatility, and navigating countless financial decisions, the simplicity of physical silver feels refreshing. 1 kilo sits quietly, without complication, without requiring monitoring or adjustments. It doesn't call your name like a stock price that jumps every day. It doesn't fluctuate in seconds the way cryptocurrencies do. It simply exists, solid and grounded. And as you look toward 2026, experts observing the market see a combination of rising industrial demand, shrinking mining output, and shifting regulatory trends that could affect prices. No one can promise what will happen, but the general tone from analysts is that silver is entering a phase where supply and demand are tightening in ways that historically lead to price strength. Some believe inflationary pressures will continue into 2026, which could support silver because it has historically performed well during periods of currency weakness. Others point to geopolitical tensions, energy transitions, or economic slowdowns that could push more investors into safe haven assets. Whatever the reasons, the message from analysts has been consistent. Silver is attracting renewed attention, and that leads us back to retirees. A lot of people over 55 don't want to chase risk anymore. They don't want the roller coaster. They want something real. They want something they can count, something with weight, substance, and history. For many, just owning 1 kilo of silver becomes an emotional reassurance, not just a financial one. It creates a sense of preparedness, a sense of dignity, a sense of being anchored when the world feels chaotic. And even though everyone's financial situation is different, even though no one should interpret this as personalized advice, the idea of owning at least a kilo resonates with people because it feels like a reasonable, attainable, meaningful amount. Now imagine going into 2026 knowing you have something real in your financial corner. Not a promise, not a projection, not a paper asset that depends on someone else's stability. Imagine knowing that if the dollar weakens, if inflation continues, if markets shake, you're not starting from zero. You have something that historically holds value through economic storms. Silver may not make you rich overnight. It may not deliver dramatic, life-changing gains, but it provides something more important for retirees: resilience, a foundation, a quiet shield. And that sense of quiet stability is worth more than any flashy investment trend. Some retirees choose to build beyond 1 kilo, while others feel comfortable stopping there. Some balance silver with gold. Some allocate a conservative portion of their retirement savings toward physical metals. Some prefer the physical weight of silver bars. Others like coins because of their recognizability. Whatever the choice, the goal is the same: to create a retirement built on peace, not panic. And if you decide that silver deserves a place in your life, whether you start with 1 kilo or more, the key is simply to work with people who make the process transparent and comfortable. That's why companies like Augusta Precious Metals get mentioned in conversations like this. They offer guidance, information, and support specifically tailored to people who want stability, clarity, and trust. They don't try to confuse you. They don't overwhelm you with pressure. They walk you through each step so you can make an informed decision that matches your comfort level. And that is what retirees want above all else: to feel informed, prepared, and confident. To feel like they are protecting their dignity, their independence, and the life they've worked hard to build. Silver is not the whole retirement plan, but it can be a meaningful piece of it. And owning even just 1 kilo can shift your mindset from vulnerable to prepared. So as you look toward 2026, as you consider the predictions, as you think about inflation, supply shortages, industrial demand, and economic uncertainty, ask yourself, what gives you peace of mind? Ask yourself whether having something real, something solid, something that has stood the test of thousands of years, would help you feel more secure. Because retirement should not be a time of worry. It should be a time of certainty. And for many people, silver, especially a simple, accessible kilogram of it, provides that certainty. It gives retirees something they can hold, something they can trust, and something that remains steady when the world doesn't. If you choose to explore it, just take your time, educate yourself, and work with companies that respect your intelligence and your goals. That's why so many people appreciate having options like Augusta Precious Metals. Not because someone told them what to do, but because they want a partner who understands the importance of stability, transparency, and calm guidance. That's the real message here. Empower yourself, protect what you've built, and move into the future with confidence. Because you deserve that peace. You've earned it. And now, if you would like to watch another video, I have it waiting here right for you. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.